Excuse me, brothers and sisters, please. If someone could just turn off.
He looked out on his people and saw they were in great need. So he did what all great leaders do. He told them the truth.
Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?
You are not descendants of Africans who are descendants of Ham. You are not descendants of Mizrites who are referred to as Egyptians today. Yes, Egyptians were black, and yes, there were many black civilizations, but your true identity is Hebrew. You are a Hebrew Yasharalite. I'll give you a quick breakdown of our history. The way we ended up in Mitzrayim as slaves in the first place was a quarrel with Yosef, father of Ephraim, and Manasseh. His brothers inspired to kill him because he was favored among all his brothers by Jacob. But instead of killing their brother, they came to the conclusion, how would killing their brother benefit them? So instead, he was sold for profit and ended up in Mitzrayim. He rose to a leadership position role, and there was a bad famine in the land of his brothers, so they came to Mitzrayim searching for food. Eventually, there was an even worse famine in the land, and Joseph invited his brothers and all family to come down to live in Mitzrayim as he did. And so all of Yisra'el was brought into Mitzrayim. Eventually, running out of a source of money, food, and so on, survive. Once a new pharaoh came to reign over Mitzrayim, he didn't have the same compassion as the pharaoh before him, and would come to inflict all of Yasharal, and we would become slaves in Mitzrayim. Yasharal cried out to Yahudah at our anguish and suffering. It was then that Yahudah would raise up a prophet named Moshe that would deliver Yasharal out of Mitzrayim. It wouldn't be until 40 years in the wilderness after the exodus from Egypt that we would be brought into a land flowing with milk and honey, promised to the descendants of Abraham. This land was known as Canaan, or present-day Israel. Later our ancestors would rebel the commands of Yahudah and whore after other mighty ones, and so on. We would then be exiled out of our land into slavery for 400 years, dispersed all around the world. The state of Israel was established in 1948, but this was by Khazarian immigrants, not the biblical Hebrews of the 12 tribes. There were 10 sons of Jacob, but later he adopted Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, as his own. That would make up the 12 tribes of Yisra'el. It's funny how the false Jews accuse people of being anti-Shemitic when in fact they're not from Shem, but from Yafet. Blacks, natives, and Hispanics, you are the descendants of Shem, not Ham or Japheth, Noah's other 2 sons. Because we didn't keep our end of the covenant, we were exiled from our land. The Jews in Israel today are not true Hebrews, but are Khazarian immigrants from Europe, descendants between Japheth and Esau, who practiced Judaism, not the true way of ancient Hebrew Yisraelites. In the reign of the Romans over Yisrael and the destruction of the temple, many were killed, while some escaped and fled to the coast of Africa. This would set up the phase before we started becoming captives to surrounding African tribes and sold as slaves to Europeans, Spaniards, and so on. But it's ironic, we were also slaves to Arabs and forced to practice Islam by the sword long before the Atlantic slave trade. Genesis or Bereshith 15:13. Yahudah spoke to Abraham about his future descendants. Know for certain that your seed are to be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Devarim, Deuteronomy 28:68. And Yahudah shall bring you back to Mitzrayim and ships, by a way which I said to you, you are to never see it again. And there you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one to buy. This is referring to Hebrews around the world. No one to buy, meaning no one will help you. Blacks, natives, and Hispanics, the 12 tribes of Yisra'el, are the only people who fit into these prophecies. With that being said, know for certain we are not to raise up our daughters to be whores, and we are not to raise up our sons to be homosexuals. Devarim or Deuteronomy 23:17. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Yasharal, nor a sodomite of the sons of Yasharal. Sodomy is described as anal or oral of the same or opposite sex. Bestiality is also included in this. The term sodomy comes from Sodom and Gomorrah, when a city was so immoral that it was destroyed. We are to raise our daughters to be pure women unto marriage, and raise our sons to be strong men and pure as well. Nor do we give our daughters and sons to other races, nor do we take sons and daughters of other races for our daughters and our sons. Well, I hope this has been insightful. Let's wake up. Let's unite, Yasharal. To you and yours, Shabbat Shalom.
From the area of modern Israel. As in the Bible, the scene involves bearded Semites riding donkeys and bringing their families and flocks into Egypt. Like the biblical Israelites, they are wearing multicolored tunics. The hieroglyphic inscription on this wall calls these people the Amo, God's people. Looking in the right place, during the right time, we are the first to recognize a veritable snapshot of the migration of the biblical Israelites to Egypt.